Do you like the new sign? Because I am literally obsessed. Hey guys, recently I had somebody comment on one of my YouTube videos asking if I could talk a little bit about unmedicated ADHD. Now I wasn't sure exactly what all to talk about simply because I've never been medicated. So I can't really compare and contrast medicated ADHD versus unmedicated ADHD. It's kind of hard to say. But I figured what I could do for you guys is explain to you what I experience with ADHD being someone that's unmedicated, or talk to you a little bit about things that therapists have told me medication may help me with. Here's just a little quick rundown of some of the things that I most often and most severely experience. Forgetfulness, trouble paying attention, trouble sitting still, or fidgeting nonstop, erratic or racing thoughts that jump from one thing to another like lightning fast, never finishing anything, low self-esteem. I'm also very, very impulsive. Now, just because you can relate to these things, and just because you're like, I'm all of those things, that doesn't mean you have ADHD. I can't stress this enough. If you think you have ADHD, for sure, go talk to a therapist or a psychiatrist. Time and time again, when you see or you look up information on these sort of conditions, they will tell you. If you have, there she is. She's always got to butt in on my videos. Just because you have these things does not mean that you have the condition. Go speak to a professional. Same thing I'm going to say here. Just because you're listening to me and you're like, I have that, does not mean that you have ADHD. Now, the therapist that I did speak to when she diagnosed me with ADHD specifically mentioned that my depression and my anxiety could be directly related to my ADHD. This is something that we commonly see with people with ADHD. They will have depression or they will have anxiety. Now, as I've said in past videos, the reason that I went to the therapist in the first place wasn't about ADHD. I was suffering with recurring depression that had started ever since I was sexually abused. But the fact that I just couldn't shake the depression, the fact that I was healing from my sexual abuse but was still struggling with recurring depression, she said it could very well be from my ADHD. So that was one thing that she specifically mentioned, that taking ADHD medication could help my depression and my anxiety. She was saying that by treating the ADHD, I actually could forego looking for depression medication or looking for anxiety medication. The ADHD treatment may wipe all of that out or significantly help it at the very least. Again, because I've never been medicated for ADHD, I can't specifically speak to whether or not these things are helped by medication, but they are some of the more common ADHD traits that I go through every single stinking day that medication would most likely help. So breaking it down a little bit more. Forgetfulness, we're talking everything from where I left my phone, where my wallet's at, that I told my kids I'd get them a snack, why I walked into a room, what I went in there to do. We're talking small things like that, and honestly things like where my wallet is, my keys are, I only remember because I hang them in the same spot every day, which ADHD tip, that's very helpful. Have designated spots for things. It really helps. So it's little stuff like that. As I've talked about before, I don't really ever forget appointments because I write things down a million times. That's ADHD tip number 2. Writing things down a lot is very helpful. I can't tell you how many things I probably would have forgotten if it wasn't for that. Case in point, just recently I completely forgot that my daughter had spring pictures. Now in my defense, I didn't plan on actually buying any of the spring pictures because I take a lot of my own pictures of my kids, but I was horrified that I had just completely forgotten that it was spring picture day because I hadn't written it down, because in my head I'm like, well, I'm not gonna buy the pictures, but I still would have done her hair different and dressed her different for that day because she's in school pictures. Other people order those pictures. So I forget things like that as well. Trouble paying attention. Even though I'm not in the classroom anymore where I sit and I'm in school, I still have issues, major issues and problems with paying attention and being able to focus on what people are saying to me when they're talking to me. I absolutely hate it. My husband can be talking to me about something, or a friend can be talking to me about something, and I'll be listening and I'll be looking at them and I'll be focusing my hardest, and certain parts of information of what they're saying just goes in one ear and out the other, and I haven't heard it, or I hear it and then the forgetfulness comes into play. I can't remember what they said in an hour. Like I can't remember important details. Trouble sitting still, kind of self-explanatory. I'm always fidgeting, always, I'm a big leg jiggler. You probably notice like I lean forward, I'm a big hand talker, things of that nature. Erratic thoughts, racing, jumping thoughts. This leads to a lot of jumps where I'm talking about one thing and then I start talking about something else and I have no idea how I even made that jump. Like my brain, I don't even know, because it was such a quick connection that I have no idea how I got there, but I got there and we're talking about it and here we go. The therapist explained it to me that our racing, jumping, all over the place thoughts is like a tree. You've got a main thought and then there's all the roots that go out and your brain like follows all of those pathways. When one person normally would just like, here's the main point, we're like, and oftentimes when you have ADHD, your thought process does go a million different ways. I never finish anything. I should say almost never finish anything. There's plenty of things that I have finished, like, there's plenty of things that I have finished, but when it comes to me starting a project, me tackling an idea, I cannot tell you how often things just go unfinished. Back when I wrote a lot, I've been passionate about writing for a long time. It's one of the few places I found where my thoughts actually come out in a coherent, well-flowing way. I don't know what it is, but it's like my ADHD gets its act together when I'm writing. Even though I don't really write anymore, back when I did, I don't know if I ever finished a story that I started. I was a big fan of short stories because it was just like a snapshot of a scene and then I could move on with my life and I didn't actually have to really finish it. So that's the thing. And as I've illustrated in my ADHD for a day or a day with ADHD video, which I'll link below if you want to check it out, oftentimes that translates to when I'm doing work around the house. I'll start a project and then I don't finish it because I get distracted by another project and I start working on that and then I get distracted by another. And it's just a big thing. So again, that big ADHD tip, write things down. When I make lists for the day and I write lists for the day, it helps me significantly. Low self-esteem, as I kind of touched on, that could be from so many different things. But with ADHD, when you live your life so often, and a lot of times you don't even realize you're doing it, but you're so often kind of fighting to be what is like socially acceptable, oftentimes means fighting against the impulse to be wiggling, to have trouble sitting still, to not be actually talking out loud about all of the thoughts that your brain is jumping to. It leads to low self-esteem because you start looking at everyone else and you start thinking, why can't I just be that smart? Why can't I just be that composed? Why can't I this? Why can't I that? And it does naturally lead to low self-esteem. And being impulsive, I am someone, it's a very strange combination because I have anxiety, so I overthink. I'm like, oh my gosh, with this trip, I have to do this and this and this, and I gotta plan it out because I'm trying so hard to avoid any sort of mistakes. But I am very impulsive in terms of when it comes to, oh, I want this. I get this sense like if I don't buy it right now, someone else is gonna buy it and then I'm not gonna be able to get it, and I really want it. It's made for me, it's perfect, I need to have it now. Or just impulsivity, like I get the idea, I wanna go on a trip, let's go on a family vacation, oh my gosh, and I want to do it now. Like I want to do it now. And I do plan things out, but I'm very impulsive where when my brain gets a hold of an idea it likes, it's like I want to do it now. So I hope that kind of answers your question about what unmedicated ADHD can look like. While I can't speak on my personal experience of being medicated and having ADHD and the difference that it makes, I do know people who have ADHD who are medicated, and they've said things like their focus is like the thing that you hear across the board. Their focus is so much better. So being able to stay focused is a big one. I've heard a lot of people talk about the fact that it has helped them be able to sit still, so they're not so fidgety and uncomfortable when they're having to sit for long periods of time, like in a class or at their job. So those are the only two things that I can really speak on that I've heard personal testimonies that it has helped them with, is focus and the fidgeting. So there you guys go. I don't know if you could hear me over Stella's snoring, but she always makes her way in here. Until next time, see you later.